Welcome to What is Goddard? Some years ago, I set out to complete a 4-year degree so that I may advance in my career. Through word of mouth, I found myself at Goddard College. I guess back in the 70s, they used to call this place Little Moscow on the Hill. So it should be no surprise that I was in for a bit of culture shock when I arrived. Goddard was frustratingly difficult to describe to people back home. While practicing videography, one of the questions I would often ask is, what is Goddard? This project is born out of that. In this video, I'll take you through a little bit of the history of Goddard College. Towards the end, you'll hear from some of my colleagues from over the years. In between the pieces, I'll interject and add a little bit more context.
We were going to start a school for living in which the students would deal with real problems and issues. And then went on to say there were 4 principles which we were going to try to apply in the operation of this school for living. One of those principles was that thought should be tested by action. In other words, if you have an idea, you ought to put that idea to the test. It wasn't much use in just having ideas. On the other hand, we said if you acted without thought, this was rather stupid. To promote maturity and self-reliance, students should carry responsibility for their own program. And we thought this should apply not only with regard to the academic program, but it ought to apply to all the things that they did in the institution. And by the way, we regarded curriculum as everything that a student did, no matter what. His social life, his work program, his studies, his off-campus performance, those were all a part of his curriculum. We had no extracurricular activities. Everything was the curriculum. Moreover, we felt that if one was to carry responsibility, they had to accept the consequences of carrying that responsibility. To be very specific, they were allowed to choose their own courses out of the offerings that we made. But what we said was, in effect, that if you choose this particular kind of program, you have to accept the consequences for what happens. And we graduated the first students from the senior division in 1943. There was just one boy, as a matter of fact, who entered. The other one was a girl who later became assistant to the president here, and she had been a graduate of the junior college. I mentioned it.
That girl he's talking about is Evelyn Bates. Spoiler alert, she'll become much more important in a little bit.
We thought also it ought to be democratic in the sense that students should have a large part in the actual operation of the institution, in helping to determine policy. And they did that. They did this in a variety of ways. They created what came to be known as community government. So community government, the notion was that students and faculty and the other members of the staff would all be involved in discussing the problems of the institution and determining policy. They determined the kind of rules affecting social life. They had a great deal to say about who would retain as faculty. Community meetings were something fearful and wonderful to behold. They would have every Monday night. They were compulsory. This was not by order of the faculty, this was by vote of the community. One of the contributions is to come and listen, or to come and participate if you want to say something. Well, those meetings would start 7:30 and frequently run to 11:30, sometimes 12.
Education. Another thing I did was to visit the University of Oklahoma. They had developed a program in liberal studies which combined some period in residence and correspondence study. They established a new degree because the faculty couldn't accept the idea that it was possible to, do correspondence study and earn the same degree that you could if you sat at the teacher's feet for a semester. But so these things were all working together. And eventually I kind of do it together so that the residence for 2 weeks, twice a year, was an important element, and the independent study with a faculty member was an important element. The granting of the same degree that we gave to undergraduates, using the same faculty and the same procedures for evaluation of the work of the students as they proceeded through the program. The difference between those who stayed here for a semester and those who didn't was simply the difference in time of residence. The other procedures were all the same. And so giving the same degree made a great deal of sense. We were the first college in the country to award a degree on that basis.
The adult degree program eventually became the low residency model that all contemporary Goddard students now know. This is one of the many radical changes perpetrated by Goddard students, staff, or faculty, both on campus and in the world.
The women's movement, to a lot of people, is a very frightening thing. And what we're trying to do is a different kind of thing. We're trying to be feminists instead of talk about it.
This is the feminist studies dorm we're in, and some of the, I think, would have been the strongest feminists that have been here have been the women who have been very involved in something else, have lived here, come back here, use this as a support group so they could get more involved in what they were doing. And I think from the standpoint of the dorm, which I'm interested in the dorm, I live here, that's the way I want to see it used. And it seemed that the people who've been able to use it best and contribute most to it have been just those people who were most involved in their own field.
Whether it's the low residency or the full residency program, Goddard students have always found the campus to be a safe haven for networking, training, or just bonding. In fact, some of the most important work starts and continues on campus.
But there's an innovative program in Vermont that's small and experimental, but may give new hope to a few of those women to get off the welfare crutch. Robin Dion and Beth Miller are part of an innovative program at Goddard College in Vermont. Single welfare mothers and their kids live on campus in college dormitories while they pursue college degrees. The mothers began their studies last year when college and state welfare officials worked out a novel arrangement. Welfare housing allowance money, which would normally go to a landlord, goes to Goddard for use of its surplus dormitories, which would otherwise be empty.
It's not costing anybody anything extra.
The welfare mothers pay for other college expenses like tuition and books through a combination of federal and state student loans, plus scholarships. They remain eligible for food stamps and Medicaid benefits. What's the cow say?
This is one of the many times that Goddard made it into the news, but sometimes we had to react to the news. I can remember working late into the night editing with my advisor on campus while his home and family were threatened by a hurricane.
Hello, this is a call to all Goddard community. We are developing, we had yesterday our first hackathon for developing a strategy to deal with humanitarian crises as they might arise. And in these days we're attending Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands after the aftermath of the Hurricane Maria. We've been putting together links to organizations that we all work with, and we also are putting together an account where we can channel all the resources that we're able to link, and we're going to have a Google page and we're going to have a Facebook page. So I want you to be really engaged in this effort. It's going to be a sustained effort. We're going to respond. We're going to have elements of first response to attend the immediate crisis, and then we're going to be working with creating educational links, artistic links, exchanges regarding issues of sustainability as a learning community that we are, a learning and a caring community. As we know, Goddard is a space where heart meets mind, and we want to, through this hackathon and through this way of dealing with humanitarian crisis that we're putting together as a collective, we want to show that we can do something immediate, sustained, and with the right impact to communities that we have already identified that we can work with. Thank you. Thank you for staying connected, and we'll keep you posted on how it's all coming together.
For these next few clips, I'll let alumni talk about their own experiences here at Goddard. I've got hours of interviews with these individuals and others. They're students of psychology, education, sustainability, sexuality studies, and many other programs and concentrations. While these individuals' backgrounds and what they studied vary greatly, as well as their view about what is Goddard, there does seem to be some shared experiences.
I wish that I hope that I can keep coming back even after graduation and to visit and to just build more. I think there's a lot of building here, and hopefully more attention can be paid to all facets of Goddard and trying to keep it alive, because I think there's a lot of worry with what will happen to Goddard, and I know that all the student body is kind of in the same place with the faculty, and it's tough. It's tough, I'll say that, but yeah, I think that's it.
In the same way that I'm studying interdisciplinary arts, and every definition of interdisciplinary art has to immediately assume the position that all art is interdisciplinary, Goddard is a community, and its meanings are multifolded. An interdisciplinary community and a physical community, a community that is physical, both here and in Washington, and a community that is more importantly here. I don't like Zoom calls. I really don't like Zoom calls, but I am excited to hop on a Zoom call with my advisor, hop on a Zoom call with some of my students, because I'm not going to the screen, I'm going here. To the community. Goddard is the people. Goddard is the witch house. Goddard is very important activist work and education for adults of all kinds. Goddard is a place, and that place is both physical and not physical. It's in our hearts. It's in our minds, and it's always changing. It's always reshaping itself. And the thing about a place is that it only continues to exist if you work very dedicatedly to continue to make it exist.
Right now, how I've been thinking about Goddard and describing it to people is it's a place where, as much as it might be presented or viewed in the media as a social justice college or a college that potentially teaches students about social justice issues, which it certainly does, but not only is it just a place where you can go and learn about that, it is a place where at every level, from staff to students to faculty, people are fighting the good fight. They are fighting for workers' rights within the college. They are fighting for the rights of the faculty. Students are always organizing to help support each other and the faculty and the staff. This is not a place where we've figured out social justice. This is a place where we are actively trying to work it out. And I think that's what makes Goddard College unique among others, and a lot more so than just another online or low residency college.
For me, I understand the perception that Goddard is an online school, but I've done online school, and nothing could be further from the truth. Online school, I think, I've never felt seen by a professor. I've never felt like I was in conversation with a professor. I felt like when I was taking classes online at previous schools that I was part of a machine. And I did have good experiences. I was able to take away real, genuine education from these other institutions. But Goddard could not be more different from that. And I think the residency period is a key part of it. There's something about the energy here. There's something, as strange as it sounds, there's something in the air. Muriel Shockley, our program director, always says, we have these lectures, we have these workshops, the keynote speakers, the advisor meetings, and those are all important, but that's not the real work that you do at residency. The real work comes in the music building. The real work comes in the dining hall, in the Hay Barn Theater, in the silos and the dorm rooms and the lounges. The real work is standing and sitting with your classmates who are engaged in such remarkable diversity of work. Visual artists of all kinds, painters, dancers, illustrators, writers, poets. There are scientists, mathematicians, videographers, musicians. There are people engaged in such exciting and challenging work in so many different fields. And because of the way we are integrated with each other, you get a cross-pollination of disciplines, of schools of thought, of lineage and tradition that I've never felt anywhere else. I describe myself as a poet, as an author. That's the bulk of my work. But being here and saying, here's what I'm working on, and hearing a musician, an illustrator, someone working in critical theory or disability justice or sexuality studies, figuring out a way to connect it to their work, to bring things together, has shaped my writing so profoundly. In the same way that the community and tradition of spoken word performance art leads to this intermingling and cross-pollination whirlpool of influencing each other. And that happens here at residency. When we're very lucky, we're able to take some of that energy, some of that connection out into the rest of our semester. There's always a couple of people that I manage to stay in touch with and carry it forward. But we lead very different lives. We have different schedules. We live in different parts of the world, all across the country and all across a lot of other countries. And residency is the time we're all together. We're all on the same schedule. We're all working towards the same goal. And without that, Goddard would be an online college.
The first time I stepped foot on this campus, I had this overwhelming feeling that it would change my life, this spiritual sense that this place was going to be important to me. And that has been true in so many ways, not only for my writing. I mean, everything I write now, I owe to Goddard. The fictional world that all of my stories take place in and navigate is the world that I created while I was here, while I was in this world. Not only that, but the community that this place has offered to me is insane. I mean, so many unbreakable bonds that I've formed with my fellow writers here, and not just the writers, but people from other programs. I feel like everywhere I go, I run into someone who either has been to Goddard or knows about how magical this place can be. And I feel like I kind of struggle to articulate just what this place means to me, because it just feels like magic. It feels like this place encourages people to tell their stories, and it knows people's stories in a way that I don't even fully understand. You know, it's just a really humbling, beautiful place. And you can study whatever you want to study. I mean, unlike other programs, Goddard allows you so much freedom to read and write and do whatever you want to read and write and do. And I am forever grateful for that.
It feels like the shared space means many different things to many different people. For some, it's networking, and for others, learning how to do activism. But most of these people seem to have one thing in common: The shared space allows us access to our community, to be able to lean on each other or act as inspiration. I'd love to show you more of their stories, but this video would probably be about 4 hours long if I shared it all. This isn't to say that we didn't share space in other places. Here are the alumni and staff at the State House in Vermont. The staff were on strike about a long-lapsed contract. We as staff felt terrible about having the strike during the UGP residency. However, this group stood with us, united with the workers. Interestingly, when management was deciding on how best to negotiate with us, they decided to cancel our health benefits. Imagine that. Sitting there, trying to think of the best way to compromise to get your workers back. Then you choose to cancel the insurance of your staff, many of whom make under $20 an hour. So it seems sometimes the institution doesn't reflect the public persona that it wishes to project.
So solidarity forever, and the union makes us strong.
Yeah.
Woo! We're here.
Give it up for Manny! This is the third time, still counts as one, right? I love you guys so much. It's so powerful. Part of the reason that I came to Goddard College is because I worked for the Bernie Sanders campaign in 2016 in Lynn, Massachusetts. Wear it on my chest proudly. It's a union town, and I didn't know what sustainability was. I didn't know what it was. I figured other people have it. They can figure it out, you know. But apparently we can't. But we can. Because we can make this college sustainable. Fuck this shit, you guys. Ready for another chant? Yeah! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Dan Ho-Coy has got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Dan Ho-Coy has got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Dan Ho-Coy has got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Dan Ho-Coy has got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Dan Ho-Coy has got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Dan Ho-Coy has got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! All right, and now the reward for all of your wonderful listening and chanting is food! So what?
Goddard is an incredible place. It has wonderful people working at it, and I'm sure they'll continue to provide an experience that will allow new students to make a change. What is Goddard to me? Well, for me it broadened my context of our world, taught me how to critically think. It also reminded me I want to fight for change. As I stand here, ready to leave the college as both an employee and a student, I find myself saddened by the state the college is in. However, I'm hopeful that the wonderful people who remain behind will continue to provide the means to radicalize future students.